Hello and welcome to today's Automation Academy Mastering the Machine webinar for the 25th of November 2023. Topic today was TIA Portal version 18, which I recently bought along with a small 1200 S7 1200 PLC. And I also went over a little bit about the Mastering the Machine workshops that we're going to be having in January of 2024. Check it out. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks. Good morning, folks, and welcome to yet another Mastering the Machine webinar, this one for November 25th, 2023. And the topic today is going to be Siemens TIA Portal, which I bought this nice new 1215 PLC, and I'm going to be covering a little bit of my adventures with the software and making some other announcements. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. This is webinar number 66, 25th of November. And again, the topic today is TIA Portal version 18 in particular. I have, through Automation Training, which is the company that I teach for around the country, I have version 15. So I've been very experienced in putting together, version 15 programs and things like that, using both the 1500 and the 1200. But I purchased the software and the hardware for this. It was about 11 or 1200 bucks, and I will be showing the pricing in a couple minutes here. But before we move on to that, I'm going to go ahead and get the basics out of the way. This is sponsored by the Automation Academy, which is my own membership group. I do have some help from some external sources. This basically started 3 years ago, just after COVID. I created this membership site to present material online, videos, and written material, lots of things. Some of my books are in there in the library. We do have a community with some interest groups called IO Central, which is not very highly used, but does have extensive forums and the ability for people to talk to each other on it, things like that. And we do have these regular events, the Mastering the Machine webinars. And you can find either one of these at automationllc.com. Academy, it's pretty much all over the place, and you can check it out. Different pricing for different plans, and it is a monthly subscription-based site. So another thing that I have to announce here, I am having a systems integration workshop from January 8th through the 19th, only on weekdays. So the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and then we have the weekend off, and then the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th. So I can handle, it says here, up to 4 students. I can actually handle up to 5. So I am opening it up to 5 people, and 3 people are already signed up, as far as I know, for the whole thing. One of them in particular, which is the reason that I started this, wanted to learn a little bit of everything, right? Wanted to learn PLC programming and pneumatics and machine vision and lots of different things based on NTH University, which I've talked about here a few times before. But that's what this grew out of. So that's why all of these brand names are here on this ad, which I did put the ad on LinkedIn and some other places. I do have room for 2 more people. The price is $600 a day per person. That is about the same going price as you would get for a PLC class, but this is going to be way, way more than a PLC class. So I do have, Allen Bradley control logics and micrologics and slicks and things like that. I have Siemens, the old platforms, the Step 7 platforms, and the TIA Portal newer platforms. I have Beckhoff trainers and software. I have a new Automation Direct productivity trainer. I have a Click. I have WineTech touchscreens, and of course the software for Rockwell and Siemens. I do have an old Siemens and an old Allen Bradley touchscreen, but so far really haven't messed with them much. But the basic idea for this, the Mastering the Machine workshops, is going to be come in, put together your own system, either physically or virtually, learn what it takes to design systems, create the IO lists, CAD drawing, if that's what you want to do, and put together the basis of an ongoing learning experience on whatever platform you choose. And the first guy that signed up on this, like I said, he wants to learn a little bit of everything. I'm probably going to point him in general towards Allen Bradley because that's mostly what's in this country. But I'm going to be doing lectures every day during that time on various different topics. I've got one guy, he is actually going to be a student at this, but he's from Cuba and he is a electronics whiz. So he'll be sharing some of his information. He is an expert at, basically taking electronic components and fixing them from scratch with no schematics. So I have a little electronics lab here with oscilloscopes and function generators and that sort of thing. If that's the direction that people want to go, they can do that. I didn't mention Omron, but I've got that. I've got a Keyence vision system. I've got Cognex vision. I am setting up all the pneumatic components to study pneumatics and do some hands-on, have enough to build 2 pick and places. And these will be the start of, again, some hands-on exercises. Of course, I have all my Fisher Technique stuff. I am remodeling this facility somewhat, putting epoxy in a big kind of the manufacturing lab room where I'm going to do, put a small mill in there and maybe a 3D printer by that time. Not really sure. But the idea is people can come in there for one day or all of the days and put together whatever kind of system they want and learn a whole bunch of stuff. I'll be here the whole time doing different lectures, may have some guests, etc. So that's a little bit of an overview of this. So contact me through the normal channels at my email or on LinkedIn or via the YouTube. If that's, leave a message there and I'll get it. If you are interested in this, and like I said, you can take anywhere from a single day all the way up to all 10 training days. And we may have some kind of a Nashville-based event that weekend. So it's in between time. And I know that some of the people are going to be here over the weekend. So I'll probably open up the lab a little bit at that time also. But this is just a kind of a quick attempt at this technique. So I just wanted to let everybody know about that. So on to today's topic, which is Siemens TIA Portal version 18, which is a little different than what I've covered before. So pricing, I mentioned that I was going to give you a little bit of input on the pricing. This is what I paid. I bought this through Wesco, which is Westinghouse distributor here in Nashville. And I got a 1215C compact CPU. And this has on it, I don't remember if it has any analog. I have not wired it up yet. Installation of the software. So I bought this back in June. And I tried to install it a couple times and it installed, but it took 2 or 3 takes the first time to even get it entirely installed. And then once I did, I tried to start it and I got this message, application failed to start because side-by-side configuration is incorrect. So I called tech support. I looked online. I found this message associated with various different platforms, not only Siemens, but some other people that were complaining about this. And when I got tech support, he sounded like he had heard, about some of these things, but did not have an immediate solution. Tech support usually for Siemens is quite good, but he suggested, go in, make sure that you install as administrator. And I did that and it still gave me the same message. And then I reinstalled it, completely uninstalled it, reinstalled it, and it worked. I had to basically kind of just keep installing it. And eventually this side-by-side message went away. So it's more difficult than I've done version 15 before, but I really hadn't messed with 18. So I'm going to go ahead and drag the software over here and we'll take a look at, this is the 1215 that I have. It is an AC DC relay, which means it has AC power, DC inputs, and relay outputs. We will take a look at the CPU itself, device configuration, and that's where you find it's a little slower too, I've noticed, than version 15 is. So here is the unit itself, and this is where you can look over here to the right and you can see what's on the module itself. You see all the room for the cards and things like that. We'll go ahead and drag this, make it a little bigger. You can see all the space for extra cards here to the right, and then special modules here to the left, things like communication modules. There is this little port on the front. I've kind of already explained a lot of this before. So as far as configuration and setup, that's just a kind of a look at it. But when you, let's get this back over here. When you open this up on the right, you will see it says digital input 14 and digital output 10. So it has 14 inputs and 10 outputs. They are on channels 0 and 1. So your addresses are Q00 through Q1.6, I guess. And then the outputs would be Q0.0 through Q1.2. That's kind of how the numbering system works. And again, I've covered this before. You can see analog input 2, analog output 2. The channels are here, 64. So this is Word 64 and Word 66 on the inputs, Word 64, Word 66 on the outputs. So for $638, you get quite a bit of I/O. And then you also get these high-speed counters as inputs, and then you get these pulse outputs, so you can do pulse width modulation. It does have some new features. It mentions, I believe, MQTT, so it has that capability. I'm kind of eager to try that because my new Automation Direct PLC also has MQTT. So I may be able to do some cloud data sharing between the two of them, and that's the kind of thing that I may try to do during that workshop. I haven't gotten real far on doing anything with this, again, because I just got it installed probably a few weeks ago and really have been messing with lots of other things. But what I did is the typical system routine that I normally do, right? So you can simulate this. I'll put this into sim mode here in a minute. Do the typical, auto manual mode that I do in most of my videos. You can see here the logic is hit the push button for auto. It latches you into auto mode. Push the push button for manual. It'll flip you from auto back into manual as long as you're not already in auto cycle. And then down here, you can see I've kind of got a new template here. I create a separate permissive. It's just a little easier for cycle start. And part of that is the fact that you're not in auto cycle already. If you're in auto cycle, then you can't press this button and do this cycle start. So you have to be in auto mode. You have to have this permissive, which includes not being in cycle start. And then you would be in auto cycle. Once that happens, you can no longer press this and go back into auto cycle. There is a cycle stop request for auto cycle. And then once you get your permissive for cycle stop, then you will stop being in auto cycle. So that's the basics behind it. So one of the things I did want to show here is what it is like to start a new project. Because when you do that, and we'll go ahead and let's see, this was called Project 1. We'll call this Project Webinar. And I'll even put the date on it. Go ahead and create this. Do I want to save the changes? Sure. Yeah, I added the call and some other things, modified the Ethernet port and all that good stuff. So if I do another webinar on this, of course, I'll have the simulator installed, or I'll use the real PLC, which is more likely, actually. I do want to build this into a trainer. So here is what you get when you start a new project. You basically have no hardware, no nothing, add new device, and this is where you choose your parts and that sort of thing. And I'm going to start this with the same thing. Notice that I'm on the HMI by default. So I wouldn't want to do that. You do have PC systems here also. I could just use a PC, or I can go into the controllers. And this software, so for what was it, $400 and some dollars, what you get is you get a basic HMI. You can do the basic level. You can, comfort, I think, is what it is. The most basic HMI level, basic panels. That's these. You do not get the comfort panels. So you could pick one of these, and then you only get 1200s. So I can't configure these, right? 1500s. This $400 and some dollar software package is only for the 1200. So I purposely, bought something inexpensive so that I could kind of get started with version 18. I already have, like I said, version 15 with 1500s and all that through automation training, but this was an attempt to take a look at the new software. So we'll go to controllers once again, 1200, and I'm going to pick the 1215C, which is what I've got here, and it's an AC DC relay. And one of the differences here, if you pick this old firmware here, 3.1, this does not simulate, see where it says 31 here, this does not simulate with the HMI. So you need to use this newer one, right? And it shows all the particulars about it, shows all the IO that we just went through, AI2 and AQ2, high-speed counters, 4 pulse outputs on board. So I'm picking this, version 4.6. And you need at least version 4 to do all this fun simulation stuff. So, okay. And you see it humming a little bit here. It takes a little longer to do the configuration, as I mentioned, than version 15 did. And I've been through everything from version 12 all the way up through version 15 previously. This is what popped up the first time. So there's a lot more to the configuration than was on version 15. The only thing I needed to do is go down into security and set it up before. Press setup to set the password. So I don't want to do that, right? I want to keep this thing open. This is just a trainer. But, security is becoming a really big deal now on all PLCs. But for training, of course, it might be good to set that up so that you can teach people how to set the security up. But I don't want to have to track down a password every time that I go online with this as a trainer. So I kind of leave all this open. So it says here, protects the PLC configuration from the TIA portal and the PLC. So I go ahead and set this off, right? Do not protect the PLC simulation. Move on to the next. And it says here, only secure PGPC communication allowed. I do not want that either. So we can just do legacy communication. We'll see if this opens the simulator. Actually, I don't think I've installed the simulator like it looks like. So finish. There we go. And I'm kind of back where I was previously. So this is where you go ahead and start this up, and you can configure your ports and all the typical things that you would do. Leave it at the default. Looks like the default is 192.168.0.1. One thing I always do is change this to 252 because I use a lot of other networks. Automation Training, which is the company that I teach for, they set all their computers at 192.168.1, and then they set all of their PLCs at 192.168.2. And so what I've done is left most of my devices around here at 192.168.0, and then 192.168.3 family is a lot of my laptops here. So people can set those up and be compatible with all these other computers and trainers from Automation Training, and also compatible with my training equipment, which I have a variety of things, Beckhoff and Allen Bradley and Siemens and things like that. So it takes doing all this. If you were to use a router, you would need to set the address of the router and the address of the PLC. And of course, you can also set the IP address directly at the device. So you can go over there and just bring up a little pop-up screen and set it there. Set up a Profinet device name. This is all a big tricky thing. We can talk about that a little bit later, maybe on a different webinar. This is in my trainings. I do have videos on setting all this up in the Automation Academy. So for people that are members, they've probably been through the TIA Portal configuration. But anyway, that is basically what it's like to create a new project. And notice that it immediately comes up with a whole lot of security things that it didn't come up with in version 15. So that was the biggest change that I noticed going from 15 to 18. If I had a version 15 PLC, I would need to upgrade the firmware to version 18. And then probably if I built a new project, I'd be going through all those steps again. So that's a look at the TIA Portal software that I just bought. Like I said, $438. This is the 1200 compatible software. And I do need to go back and install PLC Sim. I think it's part of the package that I have. I hope I don't have lots more trouble, right? This whole side-by-side configuration, every time software gets more advanced, and you've probably seen this with Allen Bradley, it gets heavier, right? Every version that I come out with, I'm on version 33 now of Allen Bradley, and the software is just heavy and slow. Every time they come out with new versions of stuff, it gets heavier, slower, more difficult to install. I notice at Automation NTH, they've had to install Allen Bradley software on a variety of computers, and it's always a multi-step process. So that's my complaint about most of these software companies. From my perspective, the software programming ability for the old Allen Bradley version, I'd say version 24 and around that era, is about the same as version 33. The only thing they've done is they've got new hardware compatibility. They got the L80 processors and things that you can go online with. But if you're using an L73, the software is just lighter and less complicated, and in my opinion, just as good, if not better. The letters are bigger on the screen. Just a lot of things that, to me, they've made it worse. And I would say with Siemens, it seems to be the same thing, because the Siemens software is a little heavier, right? It's a little slower, and it's definitely harder to install, and it seems definitely harder to configure. All those security steps, I think that should be an option. If you know what you're doing when you set your processor up, you should be able to go in there, and it doesn't need to be defaulted on. It just depends on what people are doing with it. But a professional integrator, which is really the only people that should be doing it for large machines and things anyway, would already know to go enable all that. And if they want it enabled, go ahead and enable it, but do not make it the default, and do not make your software so heavy. I understand the idea behind cybersecurity, but for people who are buying this just to play around with, the default should be, as in many cases, same thing with Allen Bradley, the default should be simple with less in it, right? You don't need all the extra AOIs. You don't need all the extra features, because you're going to simply have to go in and disable them. If you're building a big professional project, then I would say, okay, then you would go enable all those things, and you would know what you're doing, right? But the people who start out with this shouldn't have to go through all these different things. In any case, enough of my soapbox. That is pretty much it for today. I've covered most of the material. Don't know how far into this we're in. I'm sure we've done at least a half hour, 40 minutes or so. The next webinar will be tentatively December 9th. Like I said, I try to do 2 of these every month. My main goal for doing this is, of course, in support of the Automation Academy and IO Central, and in particular in support of my new workshop, which, again, I'll put this ad up here real quick, is January 8th through the 19th. I still have room for 2 more people. It is going to be a whole lot of fun. So anybody who wants to learn systems integration, complex, detailed PLC programming, in my opinion, I teach more advanced PLC programming than any of the other trainers. That's kind of my forte, is teaching systems integrators and even advanced engineers or other trainers. If you want to learn advanced PLC programming, the way the big boys do it, the way the big boys write the large, complex programs, I can help you do that. So come to this workshop and I will help teach you how to do this with lots of hands-on exercises, lots of equipment here. Like I said, remodeling my office to do all this. And after this, of course, I will have a review of this, maybe some video of some of the activities that we do. Let's see, this next webinar is the 9th, which is 1 month away from the Mastering the Machine workshops. Topic is unknown, but it will probably be something related to my preparations for the Mastering the Machine workshops, which will, involve either machine vision or pneumatics or the new trainers that I have to build to get this Siemens, for instance, where I can go online with it. Put it in one of my trainers. We're going to be doing, lots of stuff with the trainers. I'm going to have some of these enclosures kind of empty and built up so that people can hang PLCs on them or whatever. This is also an opportunity to go purchase your own PLC and bring it in here and use this lab and setup in setting the PLC up and maybe building it into an enclosure. Like I said, I'm going to have lots of tools here and lots of hardware and probably even the ability to purchase some of these enclosures and components, lots of pilot lights and relays and power supplies. I have all that for being able to build up these little trainer kits. So if you're interested, hit me up, and by all means, join the Automation Academy. I post something in there pretty much every week on, some kind of new material and what I'm up to. And, follow me on YouTube or LinkedIn and like these webinars. Every little bit helps. And anything that I can do to promote this or you can do to help me promote this, I would really, really appreciate. And of course, contact me independently of all this. Hit me up by email or go to my website, automationllc.com. Go to Automation Primer and check that out. Leave me a message and I can get back in touch with you. Thank you very much for hanging out with me this November 25th. Thank you.